Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel, and boy do we have a lot to talk about today, because of course, this past weekend was the 97th Academy Awards, and this ceremony, honestly, I'll say right up front, was the best I've ever experienced in my lifetime. Not only do I think the presentation of the awards was quite effective, but I think the winners themselves were all very, very interesting, and for the most part, very, very deserved. And I thought a lot of the speeches that were given were very heartfelt. And, you know, I'm going to be jumping around back and forth. I'm going to try to stay on track and go in order. And I'm going to try to make this shorter than Adrian Brody's speech. So let's get into it, everything that went down. And I first want to start off with the opening number. To kick off the show, the Wicked medley, I think was absolutely stunning. I mean, especially when Ariana Grande came on and started singing Over the Rainbow, all the way to Cynthia Erivo ending on that note at the end of Defying Gravity. It really blew the roof off the Dolby Theater, and I absolutely thought that was the perfect way to kick off the show. And then that leads to Conan's monologue, and I have to give it to Conan O'Brien. I mean, I wish they utilized him a little bit more, but man, when he was on stage, he was killing it. It's like, why have we not been getting Conan for all these years? Like, I feel like he should be the de facto host for the Oscars from now on, because he absolutely was amazing. And I think the great thing about this entire ceremony, too, and also I have to mention the opening montage of LA, you know, dedication to the resilience of that town after the wildfires. That was quite beautiful as well. But the thing that was so great about Conan and this whole ceremony in general is it didn't take itself too seriously, but then when it needed to, it was very, very impactful. And I felt that way about Conan's monologue. And my goodness, the shots that he fired at Carla Sofia Gascon. I was like, he does not give a fuck. And I am so glad that someone called her out on national television. And, you know, she took it well. She didn't assault anybody on stage or anything like that. And I was just so glad that he decided to take it to those places in the monologue. And I also love the gag with cutting to John Lithgow if your speech goes on too long, which obviously they didn't entirely implement. We'll get into that. But I really did think that there was so much fun to be had just in that opening monologue. But then you get those moments where he really takes it back, and it's like, well, let's talk about the people who really make these movies. The craft people who come to their jobs every single day and do this for a living. And that really, really moved me. And I think remembering what this is all about, sure, you have the stars, you have the glamour, you have all this, but the people who are so resilient and working behind the scenes every single day that I don't think get enough credit, I'm so glad that that was brought to attention in front of, you know, national, international live television. So I thought just from that alone, the ceremony was going to be great, and it was. And starting off with the first winner of the night, which was, to nobody's surprise, Kieran Culkin in A Real Pain, who had to have given the most genuine, hysterical, and absolutely memorable speech of the entire night. And the thing that's so great is you've seen him win throughout award season. Sometimes he's not even there. But you could tell that this one really, really meant something to him. Like, this is the first time I've seen Culkin get, like, emotional. And I think that means because the Oscar means the most. And to see... Okay, this is crazy to me, right? The fact that Short Round from Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom and Fuller from Home Alone are Academy Award-winning actors. I mean, who would have ever thought, like, watching those movies back in the day, that those guys would go on to win Academy Awards for acting? What? But man, I loved what Culkin had to say. I loved the shout out to Jeremy Strong. He's like, I didn't, you know, don't want to single anyone out, but I loved your performance, which would have been my second favorite performance in that category as well. And just the whole thing with his wife calling her out in front of everybody saying, hey, you told me when I won an Oscar we'd have a fourth child. It was so incredible every time Kieran Culkin got on stage this award season, but this really, really topped it. I'm so happy for him, and he really has, if not already, which I think he already did, he has reached Joaquin Phoenix status in regards to having that older brother who was such a star back in the day who kind of went on a bit of a downslide, only to have the younger brother prove to be the most versatile, talented of the bunch, and most well-respected actor. And I really loved to see that, and I loved to see that Macaulay was there too to support him. And yeah, I absolutely love this win. As if you saw my top 10 films of 2024 video, which for a sec I just want to take a minute to plug, because look, I'm not trying to, complain or anything, but the fact that it gets so little views when I pour so much work into those videos every single year, it is a little disheartening for me, and I would love if you all, gave that a watch, because it really means the world to me making that video every year, and I really can't stress that enough. But anyways, back to this video and the topic at hand. That was one of my top 5 performances of the year, and I'm really, really happy for Culkin. And to see RDJ handed off to him was a great moment as well. To see 2 of the coolest guys in the room get up there on stage was pretty special.
No pressure. I love you. I'm really sorry I did this again. And let's get cracking on those kids. What do you say? I love you.
And then we get to the first upset of the entire night, which was Flo winning Best Animated Feature over the Goliath pick that was The Wild Robot. And this really did feel like a bit of a David and Goliath situation. Now, I'm going to be honest with you, and I do have to rewatch it. Maybe my opinion will change slightly. I wasn't a huge fan of Flo, and I didn't even review it on the channel because I thought, well, what am I really going to say about this? The animals are cute. The animation's beautiful. I've never seen anything like it, but there wasn't really much of a story there for me to latch onto. And so I think it's by far the weakest in that entire category. But there is still something so inspiring about it winning, because this is huge. This is the first independent film to win Best Animated Feature at the Oscars. And considering that and the fact that Disney has now lost for the past 3 years, I really do think that this is signifying a change in the voting body and what animated movies are honored. And also just that whole David and Goliath narrative. That's really what it is. Taking down the big juggernaut that was DreamWorks' The Wild Robot was a huge feat, considering that also got 3 nominations. Of course, it's got an international feature. It was a very tough race to call. But I don't know. I think the director himself, he seems like a very genuine, very wholesome guy. And then he went to In-N-Out Burger like Paul Giamatti did after the Globes in 2024. So, it is nice in a way to see this win, even if this is one of my least favorite wins of the entire night, just from a personal standpoint, what I think should have won. But, it's still cool to see that. And talk about the surprise and signaling a shift in the Academy's voting body. Then you get to Best Animated Short, which went to In the Shadow of the Cypress. And when I saw that film about a week ago or so, or actually no, I think it was earlier last week, I said as soon as it was over, I'm like, this is what this category was made for. This is one of those winners that feels like a classic Best Animated Short film to go on to get the Oscar, and it won. But even more so than the fact that it was the most deserving film in that category, in my opinion, the speech that was given by these 2 animators who talk about the fact that they had to make this under a country that has so much surrounding control, restriction on its citizens, and of course its violation of human rights. It was really amazing to see them get the Oscar. And this is what I mean. These are the people who deserve to win Oscars. Like the people, and that's why I'm not mad about Flo, because to see people who are just so genuinely passionate about the craft that they'll do no matter what to go out of their way to make what they want to say is extremely inspiring. And I think also with this category in the shorts, I'm going to jump around a little bit, but my goodness, I think we have finally broken the whole idea of the Oscars going for topical shorts, because everyone thought Alien was going to win Best Live Action Short, considering it talks about ICE and, the mass deportations that happen at these interviews, which is really, really heinous. But they ended up going with I Am Not a Robot, which, yet again, I thought was the best one in that category. As soon as I saw it, I'm like, oh, this is awesome, this is a great nomination, love this movie, not going to win. That was not the case, and I was so pleasantly surprised. And I really think they are finally recognizing the movies that should win, as opposed to what people think should be honored due to political inclinations at the time. Because I think these wins stand the test of time a lot more than something that was only topical when it came out. And that's not to discredit Alien at all. It's a very, very powerful short. But this is what I love to see. But then again, with Best Documentary Short, sure, they didn't go for the topical ones, like Incident, which I thought should have won, and Death by Numbers, which I thought they would have gone for. But they went with The Only Girl in the Orchestra, which is like kind of a feel-good, look at this, amazing, trailblazing woman, but I don't know if I would have given it the Oscar to win, right? But it does signal that there is a shift in how people are looking at these shorts, and I think that in itself is very, very refreshing, and so I was very, very happy to see that happen throughout the entire night as well. It really, really is such a big deal in the long scheme of things. And so many other amazing historical wins as well, especially for Best Costume Design. And I like that they did the 5 format, not with the actors, because it's like, who would want to say anything positive about Carla Sofia Gascon? Like, that was not happening. But I liked how they brought on actors who were in these nominated films, and they got to talk about the work and the people that they worked with. With Paul Tazewell ending up winning for Wicked, which really was no surprise to anyone, but yet again, the first black queer man to win, first black man period to win in costume designs, and that was amazing that he got to have his moment on stage to celebrate that. I mean, that is why the Oscars should exist, for people who really are, so dedicated to their craft and don't get to be seen in that way. And I really, really loved that win, which of course the movie obviously won production design as well. No brainer technical categories for Wicked to walk home with. The only 2 awards it walked home with at the Oscars this year, but the 2 most deserving, I think. I would have voted for them in those categories as well. And speaking of deserving and historic wins, we have to talk about Best Documentary Feature going to No Other Land. That was incredible, because not only is it the best film in that category, but the fact that the Oscars actually voted on a film that is pro-Palestine. Never would have thought it'd seen the day, especially after Jonathan Glazer's speech last year, when it basically has... I don't think it has been put back on YouTube yet, because apparently there are a lot of Zionists in Hollywood, which, I guess kind of makes sense. I'm not saying it should, but to have them get on stage and talk about the human atrocities that are being committed in Palestine every day, and to be able to get up there and celebrate this tireless activism from this team, it really is so beautiful, especially getting to see their journey in the movie. To see them get to this point really feels like it is, they got their just rewards, and I really, really, really love that this won Best Documentary Feature. One of the absolute best and most important wins of the entire night. And yet again, it's like, these are the people who should be talking politics on the Oscar stage. Not a lot of the actors or, who are pushing their own agenda. People who actually have a stake in what is going on and what is happening in the world around us, and who are working tirelessly every single day to make sure that things are better and better, and that we keep, championing human rights. And I think this team is the perfect example of that, and absolutely very, very deserved to win. And then we get to the screenplay categories, which wasn't really a big surprise at all. I mean, of course, we knew Peter Strawn was going to win for Conclave, which I believe he's the first non-writer-director to win in over a decade, which is pretty amazing. But, I think that's one of not only the best screenplay from last year, but one of the best screenplays of the decade. So very, very well-deserved win, but no-brainer there. And then Sean Baker ended up taking it for Anora, which we expected to happen because Anora was the perceived frontrunner for Best Picture. But this was really the first moment where we should have thought, maybe a sweep is incoming, because then when he took editing over Conclave, I was like, it is over. Like, there is no doubt that Anora is going to win Best Picture. And I don't even think Anora deserved to win editing in that sense, where I don't watch that movie and think, oh, this is the best edited movie of the year. I actually think you could have cut a few minutes off. It gets a little repetitive here and there. But I think that the fact that it did win editing and that Sean Baker went up to accept his second Oscar that night for that award, I really do think speaks strength to how much they love this movie. And I think a very, very interesting stat, because, you know, the last couple years, Everything Everywhere All at Once and Oppenheimer winning editing, it made sense. Even though they were the Best Picture winners, it's like that's some of the most impressive editing, not only from those years specifically, but maybe all time. So, you know, there was no arguing that. This time, it's like, okay, it's a little bit more loosey-goosey. And I think the fact that they picked it showed the strength that they had for this film overall, which of course transcended into another category which we will definitely get into later on in this video. And of course, makeup and hairstyling. I really loved the pairing of Scarlett Johansson and June Squibb saying she was Bill Skarsgård, or that Bill Skarsgård's playing her. That was pretty funny. But the substance, one of the biggest no-brainers of the night. This is why this category was created. This is up there with American Werewolf in London, The Fly, The Thing, which of course did not get nominated for some reason. But this is just such a tremendous, tremendous win. And usually, of course, this correlates with the lead acting Oscar. Didn't this year, and of course, we will get into that shortly. But we have to get to the other acting win of the night, which was Zoe Saldana in Best Supporting Actress for Emilia Perez, a movie that has been so derided throughout this award season, and for a character I think was pretty underwritten, but I think Zoe Saldana is so well respected. I mean, she's in 3 of the highest grossing movies ever made. She's been really putting in a lot of great work throughout the years, and even the people who hate the movie, I think for the most part, were like, okay, like, yeah, you know, she deserves an Oscar. And, you know, her speeches, she's been crying this whole season, so, you know, I'm just happy that she won. I mean, the first Dominican Dominican woman for sure to win an Academy Award, at least of Dominican descent, and so that's pretty groundbreaking, and it's nice to see her finally get her flowers after all these years. And then the other award that Emilia Perez won for Best Original Song, look, I like El Mal. I mean, it's not like an amazing song or whatever, but yet again, all the songs I actually thought were good this year. I thought Mi Camino should have been the one from Emilia Perez to win, because I actually do love that song. I think it's a really great, very well done pop song. But this is the one that took it home in one of the worst speeches of the entire night that just made me want to gouge my eyes out, and my ears for that matter. And it just felt so insincere to give Jacques Audiard an Oscar after everything that's happened, and then them singing to Emilia, a character that has been so hated by so many people, just felt so tone deaf. None of these people, even Zoe Saldana, none of them talked about, you know, the actual Mexican community in their speeches, or the trans community for that matter, and it felt very, very disingenuous and insincere. And I know Zoe Saldana, she had a great response in the backstage press room after her win, even though it still felt it was a bit invalidating towards a lot of Mexican people and trans people as well, even though, you know, open discussion, sure, but I don't know. It's really tough to get behind this movie based on everything that's happened, but those are the 2 awards that it capped off with for the night, and I think the rest of us are very grateful for that, because of course, the biggest and most important win of the entire night had to have been I'm Still Here, triumphing in Best International Feature over the 13 Oscar-nominated Emilia Perez, and one of the most deserving wins of the night. And I know everyone's still coming on my channel to watch my I'm Still Here review, which is probably should be on a list of the top 10 videos that have aged poorly, because my goodness, coming back around to that movie and watching again, I absolutely loved it. And also just the fact that if Emilia Perez had won this award, it would have been such a slap in the face to the Mexican and trans community, where this film really uplifts the Brazilian people. I mean, it's Carnival right now. They're going ballistic, you know? And it's so amazing that they're able to have this film win Brazil its first Academy Award ever. And it's first for international feature, obviously, which is huge. Which is absolutely so well deserved for a film that I think you have to put up the argument that movies are not just entertainment, because this movie is overturning legislation in Brazil. And I can't remember the last time a movie ever having that level of impact. So it really would have been so much a slight against the Brazilian people to have awarded Emilia Perez this award. And the stat still has never broken, where if you're in Best Picture, you will win Best International Feature. And I am so glad that it got the nomination for Best Picture, because I think that is the only reason that this won, as well as many of the other reasons that I have stated. But I just think that this was just such a heartwarming win, and that people really caught on to this movie in the way that they should have, is the way that I've come around on it. And I'm very happy for Walter Salles and company for getting that very, very well deserved for Brazil after all these years. And of course, 2 awards in the tech categories did end up going to Dune Part 2 for Best Sound and Best Visual Effects, which were really no-brainers, even though I think it is interesting that after the Zone of Interest win for sound last year, that The Substance was not even on the shortlist, because if they're going after the movies where the sound is more intentional than it is about, you know, all the big, loud things that happen, I really do feel like they should have nominated and awarded The Substance here. But it is really hard to deny just how impeccably well done the sound editing and mixing is in Dune Part 2. I mean, you see that movie in a theater, you will never forget how your ass was vibrating in the seat. Because it's just so impeccably well crafted from top to bottom, and I think that goes for the sound as well as the visual effects, which was one of the biggest no-brainer categories of the entire night. I mean, this is some of the most seamless visual effects you'll ever see in any movie. I really don't even think that they look like they are CGI effects watching that film. It is just so seamless and so deserving. And so I am very, very happy that Dune won at least 2 Oscars, even though we all know it should have won more, right? But that's kind of bullshit, the reasoning is to that. But regardless, I do want to talk about some of the other segments, which I thought were really great. The tribute to Quincy Jones, they did the song from The Wiz. You know, very, very well done number. Not sure why they did a Bond tribute. Maybe it's because Michael G. Wilson and Barbara Broccoli have finally given over the Bond franchise to celebrate the death of a series that will soon be ran into the ground. But that's for another day to have that conversation. Cool to see Margaret Qualley up there. Probably should be a Bond girl. Would fit right in. And don't know why Adele wasn't there to sing Skyfall. But okay. And I really did love the In Memoriam, even though that they did forget Michelle Trachtenberg, who died just a few days before the ceremony at 39 years old. And I mean, that in itself is so tragic. Tony Todd, you know, there's a couple people that they left out, but I really do think that they included almost everyone this time around. It was one of the better In Memoriam segments, and having Morgan Freeman come out and honor the late, great Gene Hackman was really, really pleasant to see. And the fact that they saved Lynch, James Earl Jones, and him for the end, couldn't have asked for a better way to conclude that segment. And I really do think it says a lot that they had someone, you know, come out and talk about Gene Hackman, because I think that goes to show just how important he was in the world of acting and in the film industry and history of cinema. So back to the awards, of course, the next tech awards that took home the Oscars, of course, Daniel Bloomberg for Best Original Score for The Brutalist, and Lowell Crowley for The Brutalist in Cinematography, which should come as no surprise, even though I think Dune should have won Best Cinematography. Of course, you know, what they accomplished on a $10 million budget is absolutely insane, and some of the best cinematography you will have seen from all of last year. And as I've said many times before, I think that Daniel Bloomberg's win for Best Original Score is an all-timer. I mean, that's one of the greatest film scores of all time, certainly in recent memory, and I think people are going to remember that such years on in the future. And so that leads to the third consecutive win for The Brutalist, which of course was Adrien Brody winning his second award for Best Actor in the longest speech in the history of the Academy Awards, which is kind of fitting for the longest Best Actor winning performance, which actually was a record held for 65 years by Charlton Heston and Ben-Hur. And so it's kind of amazing to see Brody break that record, maintain his record for the youngest actor to win back when he won for The Pianist at 29 years old. Timmy didn't prevail this time, even though, you know, he's got a lot of opportunities coming up very soon. But this, to me, I know everyone has derided how long he's gone on, that he's kind of full of himself and saying, oh, you know, I've done this before, which I thought was pretty funny, if I'm being honest. But look, for me, I'm okay with it, because when he got up on stage, seeing him accept his second Oscar, it really brought tears to my eyes. And just what he was saying about how he never thought he would have this opportunity again, and how he's going to spend the next 20 years trying to prove that he deserved to be there. I really think it was so beautiful, considering everything Adrien Brody has gone through in his career. An Oscar win to a lot of, you know, very underdeveloped opportunities for him. Sure, he was been in some big movies, he's been in a lot of Wes Anderson films, but I don't think he had really been given a role that followed up his promise on The Pianist, like the one in The Brutalist. And to see him on only 2 nominations, not only win them both, have a clean streak, but he now joins the rank of actors like Spencer Tracy, Tom Hanks, Jack Nicholson, Dustin Hoffman, Sean Penn in this category is absolutely insane to me. On 2 nominations, which he both won. I mean, if that is not an insane and unpredictable career, I mean, I don't know what else to say, but I really do love everything he talked about. You know, shout out to Georgina Chapman and their kids. It felt very endearing, even if it was indulgent. Sure, it didn't have to go on as long as it did, but I think the bigger problem here is not Brody's speech itself, but more so the fact that they cut off a lot of other people who didn't get to talk 6 minutes like Brody did. And I think that's really, really disingenuous, because like I said, I mean, we all know Adrien Brody. He's one of the greatest actors of all time, and I certainly think that this award more than solidifies that. But a lot of these other people don't have that level of exposure, and they should. And they shouldn't be played off when they're trying to, you know, have their moment in the spotlight. I really think we should have, you know, given everybody the opportunity to do so. And of course, thanks to Adrien Brody and the lack of damage control on Hulu's part, the live stream crashed because it ran over. Don't know why they didn't fix it, but whatever. I think that this was the best win of the entire night. I really do. And also what he had to say about anti-Semitism, you know, and that is, I will give Adrien Brody this. I think he's someone who is more than qualified to speak on that. And so, yes, he could have cut it down. He could have been a little less indulgent, but I really did love a lot of what he had to say, and I'm really, really glad that he got his second Oscar over 20 years since his first, and a very, very well-deserved and all-time great film performance. And then that takes us to Best Actress, which, my goodness, what a fucking race. And in odds of everything that has happened throughout this entire award season, Mikey Madison prevailed on top to win Best Actress in a Leading Role over Demi Moore in The Substance and over Fernanda Torres. And I'm Still Here. After seeing I'm Still Here again, I would have gone with Fernanda Torres, and I was rooting for her to maybe pull out a shocking win. But Mikey winning in itself is kind of shocking, because she only won the BAFTA. And I think this goes to show just how important the BAFTA is, and also the fact having a person in the front runner for Best Picture in a tight acting race, it is always going to go to the movie that they think is out front and that they love the most. Only time this didn't happen was Frances McDormand in 3 Billboards. Why is this? It's Frances McDormand. Need I say any more? And so I think that this is a very well-deserved win, because everybody knows who has seen Mikey Madison talk in interviews that she is one of the most genuine and dedicated artists to the craft of acting. And it is amazing to see someone who's like barely less than 3 months older than me win a lead acting Oscar. Like, I need to get my shit going, guys. I mean, let's be honest here. But really, I think seeing her win especially has kind of lit a huge fire underneath my ass, because I really want to get going and get to where I need to be in this industry, because seeing people my age reach that level of success is really, really amazing. And I could not be any more happy for Mikey Madison's win in this category, which I think is a bit shameful that people are just dogpiling on her because, oh, well, Demi didn't win, Fernanda didn't win. Look, we can be disappointed, but let's not take away from the amazing work that she did in that film. Like, she literally gave herself over to a role that she completely disappeared into, and I think most people watching Anora would be like, yeah, that's a deserving performance. And so, let's not let our emotions run too crazy and our biases towards these people. Look, I think this is going to rejuvenate Demi Moore's career in a way that nothing else ever has done for her before. And I think that she is talented enough that she might come back up on that stage and maybe win an Oscar one day. I don't know. Sure, it is disappointing to see, such a beloved film star not ultimately triumph at the end of the day, and of course Torres as well. But both of them have been so gracious throughout the award season. Just so please, lay off Mikey. It's a good thing she doesn't have social media. But I think with that being said, it was very, very obvious that Best Director, well, I know he won earlier, right? But yeah, we knew Anora was winning picture. I would have went with Corbet for director because, look, I respect all the work that Sean Baker has done for the past, 10 years or more. But I do think that when I watch Anora, I don't think of it as like a filmmaking movie. And I don't mean that as a put down for Sean Baker. But when I think of a visionary film, something like The Brutalist comes to mind. But you can't bet against DGA, and Sean Baker triumphed at the end. And of course, when it came to Best Picture, Anora was called by Billy Crystal and Meg Ryan. And, look, I think that it is amazing to even comprehend for a second that not only is Sean Baker the first person since Walt Disney to win 4 awards in a single night, but he is the only person to win 4 awards for the same film. That is absolutely nuts. And, of course, I wouldn't have voted him in those categories, but still, it's insanely impressive to see how far he has come as a filmmaker and his journey to this moment, despite the controversies that will arise and have arisen with Anora. I am happy for the crew. Like, I get why this movie won. Wouldn't have been my pick, but, I do wonder now if it is a movie that will stand the test of time. I think it's one of those things where the semantics are there, and I think people are still going to appreciate what was accomplished narratively and thematically, but, everyone's not going to be on board with it. It's not Emilia Perez, though, let's be honest. And I really do think that this is a deserving win. And, so that was the Oscars. Probably the most unpredictable season of all time, but I think it really culminated to such an amazing celebration of all these films. Controversy aside, I really, really do love a lot of these wins, and I'm very much looking forward to seeing what happens next. I'm very looking forward to see what Mikey Madison does next. I'm very much looking forward to see what Adrian Brody's going to do going forward, and I'm very much excited to see what all these people are going to do in the near future, because I really do think that this is such a talented group of winners, and, such a great celebration. I really do think the show, there were some bits that were cringy and pretty in line with, some of the trends of the Oscars in the past, but I really do think that this was such a delightful ceremony, and I think everyone I was with absolutely loved the show, and it's going to be hard to top this Oscars, even though the viewership wasn't quite there. And I really am glad to see a lot of these movies that were nominated become successful. Like the return of the mid-budget movie, just like Cord Jefferson was saying in his Oscar speech last year. We saw movies like Conclave, I think, reach about $100 million at the box office. And I don't think that has happened in a very, very long time. So I am very hopeful, maybe not entirely about the future, but when it comes to the industry, I think that there's some very positive trends that have been occurring, and I hope to see that in the years to come. And thank you for listening to me talk about this amazing and thrilling awards season, because, I probably went on too long. But I do want to talk to you guys about this every year, and I'm really grateful for you guys to have decided to click on this video and listen to me, of all people. I mean, why? But anyways, I am very, very happy that you did. And please smash the like button if you like what you're seeing here. And subscribe to the channel for more content like this. I know I didn't do it yet, but I promise I'm going to do my video for my top 5 albums of 2024. Still the last wrap-up thing that I have to do from last year. And just been so busy putting together the top 10 of 2024, which, once again, I implore you to check out. And yeah, I'm looking forward to see how 2025 shakes out when it comes to movies, when it comes to music, etc., etc., etc. And thank you once again for joining me in this video. I'll talk to you guys very soon.